Hello there, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. Thank you so much for being a viewer and a subscriber. The good news is that the House, in the middle of the night, passed the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. But I am concerned about something, and that is that not a single Republican in the House of Representatives voted for the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. Also, there were two Democrats who voted against the American Rescue Plan. We'll dig deeper into that, and I'll tell you why this is an area of concern as far as the next stimulus, the major infrastructure plan, the Build Back Better agenda from President Biden is concerned. This is something we really have to watch out for, and this is the one problem that I haven't seen anyone really talk about or anyone really cover. First, let's get started with an overview of what's going on right now, and let's just jump right in. As always, if you learn something new, please click the like button, please subscribe, please enable notifications. I will give you the reasons why those Democrats essentially said no. Those two Democrats in the House said no to the American Rescue Plan. We'll uncover some brand new comments from the President of the United States, and then I'll give you my analysis as to what is likely to happen next and whether I think the $1,400 stimulus checks and the $400 week unemployment benefit will indeed get passed by Congress. So make sure you watch the video all the way through to the end. First, let's take a look at this tweet on your screen from Michael Strain, who's a director of economic policy studies at AEI, and he's a columnist for Bloomberg Opinion. And Michael points out that in a historical context, the president's stimulus plan is extremely popular. Take a look at where it stands, and you'll see it's highlighted in the bold font, the $1.9 trillion COVID-19 bill, and you can see again that it's remarkably popular. The most popular act from Congress was the Brady bill that had to do with handguns, that had to do with background checks for handguns. That this was passed back in 1993, and you can see how popular the $1.9 trillion stimulus plan is indeed. And as you know, in the middle of the night, and this was reported by various news outlets, that the House Democrats passed the stimulus plan, and this is good news. But again, the thing that really concerns me, folks, is that just two Democrats. The thing that concerns me is that all the Republicans voted against it, and there were two Democrats that voted against it. So this is again an area of particular concern. Let's actually analyze why these Democrats voted against it, and the $15 an hour minimum wage is something that the Democrats are still fighting to achieve, and they are indirectly going to try and achieve it. And I have to tell you, after I heard the comments yesterday, we'll dig deeper into them. I actually uncovered some misleading comments from the Republicans, and believe it or not, some misleading comments also from the Democrats, specifically from President Biden. I'll be covering that in another video. But first, let's take a look at essentially why these two Democrats said no in an interesting segment that was published today on Fox. So let me get that pulled up on our screen right now, and I'll be going ahead and playing that segment right now. I'll play it right now for you.
The two Democrats voting against the plan, Kurt Schrader from Oregon and Jared Golden from Maine. Now, Golden from Maine put out this statement. I want to read it in part. Unfortunately, the path congressional leaders have chosen goes far beyond these key provisions to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars. After supporting $4 trillion in emergency COVID relief in 2020, I won't support trillions more in funding that is poorly targeted or in many cases not necessary at this moment in time. Neil, while this bill covers just about everything
And folks, that was a comment from one of the Democrats in the House who voted against the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan late last night, in the middle of the night, literally.
Democrats wanted. It does not allow that $15 minimum wage proposal, as you mentioned, because the Senate parliamentarian said, listen, this cannot happen.
And the reason I'm discussing $15 an hour minimum wage, folks, is this is extremely important. The Democrats have made it very clear that this is extremely important to them. And in fact, they are considering taxing companies who don't pay their workers a $15 an hour minimum wage. So they're indirectly trying to force the $15 an hour minimum wage. This is important because I believe this is going to set up a battle in the United States Senate in the coming week. Let's get back to this segment and see what the Democrats are up to.
Happen in the Senate when it makes its way over here. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi addressed the minimum wage issue on the floor. Listen.
The $7.25 minimum wage that exists now is in many instances, an exploitation of the American worker. And it is a cost to taxpayers because the minimum wage workers need food and housing assistance, and many are on Medicaid. This is corporate welfare.
Wow.
Okay, so $15 minimum wage is the ultimate goal. President Biden says he is for that. Now is just not the right time. Meanwhile, you look at a company like Costco. The CEO just announced they're going to hike their minimum wage from $15 to $16 an hour.
So, folks, I actually have covered that elsewhere on our channel. If you've been following my channel, I did cover Costco announcing that they would increase their minimum wage from $15 to $16 an hour, effective immediately, meaning next week. The $15 an hour minimum wage that the Democrats wanted was going to be phased in over 5 years. Even Amazon has been essentially setting up a nationwide campaign to push for $15 an hour minimum wage, although that could have a lot to do with Amazon not wanting the unionization of their workers. Folks, there's always a hidden agenda. There's always an ulterior motive with all of these large companies and large corporations, and also with politicians. So let me know what you think. In fact, let's take a look at this article. Let me show you this article, the next article that I have pulled up from the Washington Post. And this article tells us that Democrats explore taxing, largely taxing big Fortune 500 companies who are not paying $15 an hour. So what the Democrats are trying to do, and by the way, I'll provide you with a link. You'll get a link to all of these resources in the description section below, so please make sure you check them out. The Democrats want to tax large companies, and this is an alternative, this is a plan B, if you will, to the $15 an hour minimum wage, because a lot of Democrats, a lot of centrist Democrats did not want to overrule the parliamentarian who said that the $15 an hour minimum wage cannot be included in the $1.9 trillion stimulus package. So the Democrats essentially have this as a plan B, if you will, to force companies to pay a higher minimum wage. Now, in the middle of all this, the president chimed in. Okay, President Biden actually spoke today, and what was interesting is he just spoke for a minute, and he pushed the American Rescue Plan. He didn't take any questions, but I think it was interesting what he said, and I think the words that he chose tell us that while he's hopeful and thankful to what the House has done, he expects a battle in the Senate in the week. Now, let's watch President Biden's clip, and then I'll give you my analysis of what I think is going to happen in the next 7 days. But first, let's take a look at President Biden. Let's go ahead and play the segment and hear from the president.
Pelosi for extraordinary leadership, and all those who supported our plan. And with their vote, we're one step closer to vaccinating the nation. We are one step closer to putting $1,400 in the pockets of Americans. We're one step closer to extending unemployment benefits for millions of Americans who are shortly going to lose them. We're one step closer to helping millions of Americans feed their families and keep a roof over their head. We're one step closer to getting our kids safely back in school. And we're one step closer to getting state and local governments the money they need to prevent massive layoffs for essential workers. Now the bill moves to the United States Senate, where I hope we will receive quick action. We have no time to waste. If we act now, decisively, quickly, and boldly, we can finally get ahead of this virus. We can finally get our economy moving again. And the people of this country have suffered far too much for too long. We need to relieve that suffering. The American Rescue Plan does just that. It relieves the suffering. And it's time to act. I thank you all for being here. Appreciate it.
President Biden, are you disappointed that you didn't get any?
That was it. The president didn't take any questions. And so let me know in the comment section below what you thought of the rather interesting comments from the president. And of course, House Speaker Pelosi, as you might expect, chimed in on the passage of the American Rescue Plan. Here's a statement from House Speaker Pelosi. This is from the House Speaker's website, basically on the passage of the American Rescue Plan. The House Speaker said, as we send the legislation to the Senate, the House will continue our fight for 15, which would give 27 million American workers a raise, the fight for the $15 an hour minimum wage. They're making the $15 an hour minimum wage a big factor, the Democrats, and essentially they have a plan B in mind. And she said, hey, this is something we are going to continue to push for. So let me know in the comment section below what you think of essentially this new state of affairs. But for me, to be completely honest, I'm concerned about the fact that not a single Republican, I didn't expect 30 Republicans to vote for the $1.9 trillion stimulus plan, but I was expecting maybe a couple. But the fact that not a single Republican in the House voted for the American Rescue Plan actually tells me that we are in for a major battle in the United States Senate. And my analysis of this is the $1,400 stimulus checks, I believe, will pass. The $400 a week will pass because this is all about numbers. The Democrats have 50 senators, and we have the tie-breaking vote from Vice President Kamala Harris. The $15 now, the fact that it's going to be struck down would ensure the vote from the conservative Democrat Joe Manchin and the Democrat from Arizona, Kristen Sinema, Senator Sinema, which means that the Democrats would be able to pass it. But this sets us up for major gridlock for the infrastructure plan for future recovery down the road. Because, folks, this is not the end. The American Rescue Plan is not the end of the help, of the kind of massive stimulus the country needs going forward. But we seem to be extremely bipartisan. And with all this happening tomorrow at the Conservative Political Action Committee conference, CPAC conference, former President Trump is expected to speak and outline what is expected to be a rebuke of the Republican establishment and open musings, potentially confirmation of him running again in 2024, which I think would have implications for pretty much everything the Republicans do in terms of their conversations with the Democrats. In other words, I'm expecting more of a hardline position from both sides towards the end of the year, even though I expect the American Rescue Plan to pass. So, in short term, this won't mean a whole lot. The shenanigans, but long term, we're expecting more and more conflict down the road. That is how things look. That is how things look to be right now, and that's where things stand. I hope you learned something new. Please click the like button. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. I would appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching. I am going to release another video talking about what I think are misleading comments from both Republicans and Democrats. We'll be covering those soon. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.